Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of Strange Brews. This week we have yet another very special guest from the CEDH community, the self-proclaimed lover of discard, Toglerog.
Hey, how you guys doing today?
We're doing good, we're doing good. So, I don't want to introduce the list because I'm going to start gushing about one card in particular, but Toggle, what did you bring to us today?
This is my self-titled Polyportal list. It is basically a deck that wants to use polymorph style effects to cheat out Possessed Portal, the best artifact in the game, and the best stacks piece in the game, and then
Sorry,
use
I had a moment
another
there.
polymorph effect like Neoform to get your lock piece like Tendershoot. So, ideally, you're looking to double poly into your two lock combo.
So let's go over Possessed Portal real quick and this is one of the reasons I'm so excited to be doing this episode because this is one of the two cards that I'm kind of identified by on the Duretti Discord. This is Possessed Portal was my baby for a long, long time. Unfortunately, didn't quite make the cut in the current list just because certain other things are so good, but when Sean told me there was a list that just wanted to polymorph into Possessed Portal as quickly as possible, I was like, get them on the cast right now. So, for those who don't know, Possessed Portal is an 8 mana artifact, and it is the only artifact in this deck due to the polymorph effect. If a player would draw a card, that player skips that draw instead, and at the end of each turn, each player sacrifices a permanent unless he or she discards a card from his or her hand. Important to note, at the end of each turn, each player.
Yeah,
This card chews through resources fast.
this was that was one of the first things I noticed when I was looking at Possessed Portal because it's never really a card that I've played or even really experienced before. So when I was looking at it before today's video, or a couple weeks ago when we first booked this night of recording, I was like, wait a minute, it's each player at each turn. Because
Yeah,
most of the
so
effects that make people discard or sack, it's like at the beginning of their upkeep or at the end of their turn, they sack something. This just gets everyone every turn.
yeah, it's not like a smokestacks effect where at the beginning of your upkeep each it's real slow and grindy. The second Possessed Portal comes out, you need to have an answer in hand, or you don't get a chance to to get out.
Fuck me, I love this card so much.
Yeah, once turn cycle, everyone discards 4 and sacks 4. It's just,
I think the only way to get out from under it, other
Exactly.
than having an answer in hand, is literally like having a necro in hand. Otherwise,
There
you're
are
kind
a
of done.
couple ways out, and obviously we'll talk about that when we get to like the weaknesses of the deck, and I can mention those, but they're a lot less than people would think. You need some kind of pretty specific cards in your hand, and the ability to use them before the lock is too much. If it's like a too high of mana cost to try and get out, by the time it gets back to you and you've had to sack lands, you're screwed either way. So
Right, and
Yeah.
that is actually similar to the reason I ended up cutting it from Duretti, is because it was only really useful when Duretti's ultimate was out, which allows you to kind of break parity on the permanent sacrificing since they come back like right away. But here, like you mentioned, we have other cards to sidestep that disadvantage, such as Tendershoot Dryad, which is what did we call it earlier? Toggle, the quintessential mid-range beat stick. Is that what I
yeah,
said?
but basically it's the whoop ass in a can kind of army in a can type card
Yeah.
where if it makes it around the table, you're also going to have a bad time because you've got an army of like 4/4s and all this stuff staring down you.
If you're a Blood Pod player, you know this card. For those who don't play Blood Pod, Tendershoot Dryad is a 4 and a green for a 2/2 creature Dryad, but it has Ascend. So if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. And at the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 green sapperling creature token, and sapperlings you control get +2/+2 as long as you have the city's blessing, which, as said, you get by having 10 or more permanents, which in our format is pretty damn easy.
Yeah, especially when Tender Shoot, the turn cycle it comes down, gives you 4 of them, which is pretty sweet.
Another,
Yeah, it's kind of
another,
advanced.
another at the beginning of each, at the end of each.
Yeah,
Yes, that is the very, very crucial part, is that it is an effect that at each upkeep gives you sacrifice fodder. Which is kind of, like I said, the game plan of the deck. You want to lock people out from cards, and then get Tender Shoot out, which will break the lock, because each upkeep, each upkeep, you'll make a token. At each end step, you'll sack a token. And the game wins by beating people's face with a 2/2. That's the game.
yeah, that's pretty awesome. So, you know, kind of alluded to it, but what do the commanders bring specifically to the deck? What is the ability?
What does Sidar Kondo of Jamura bring to a CEDH deck?
That's the name I've not heard in a long time.
Long time.
I do mention it in my primer a little bit, where I kind of go over why we're running the commanders we're running, and it really comes down to the biggest thing is that Silas Wren is a polymorph target. By the way, the card we're using is not polymorph. I keep calling it polymorph because that's like the colloquial term for this kind of effect. The card is known as Shape Anew, which I gotta find it here. Yeah, Shape Anew is a sorcery for 3 and a blue. The controller of target artifact sacrifices it, then reveals cards from the top of his or her library until he or she reveals an artifact card. That player puts that card onto the battlefield, then shuffles all other cards revealed this way into his or her library.
God, if only it was an instant, it'd be such a good, like, hate piece, too. Or, like, piece of interaction.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And like we said earlier, Possessed Portal is 8 mana. You're never casting that. Like, if you're hard casting Possessed Portal, shit's in a bad spot.
And you better have a Tender Shoot in play.
Yeah. And so Shape Anew lets you go 4 mana. Your artifact creature in your command zone, your Silas Wren, that's the reason you run Silas Wren, goes and gets turned into a Possessed Portal. And then Sidar Kondo there's a couple reasons. The biggest one is that he's a Neoform target. You go from Sidar Kondo to Tender Shoot Dryad, which makes the combo really 2 cards in your deck and 6 mana, which is pretty easy to assemble. It's technically 4 cards because you need your 2 commanders, but you always have access to those. So
yeah, we definitely don't count the cards that you have to get in your get from your command zone because they already exist. You always have access to them, and so that's always pretty fun.
Toggle, I mean, this may be obvious because this is kind of your brew, but what draws you to playing this deck over other CEDH decks?
Because I can play Possessed Portal and
Damn straight! Damn straight!
I've played Possessed Portal in several of my iterations of other decks. Like I'm one of the head mods on the NAF Discord, and I keep one of the main primers for that. And Possessed Portal has been a longtime favorite of NAF, even though it had to be cut much like Duretti in that it doesn't make the cup anymore. I like it in Turgrid style decks, but
oh god, that's disgusting. I haven't even begun looking at Turgrid. Holy shit! And you can turbo it out with rituals.
Yeah, Possessed Portal Turgrid just reads you gain all permanents in play, and then sacrifice Possessed Portal and win the game. So that's really, really good. But yeah, that's the reason I picked this deck. What draws me to this deck is that I get to turbo out pretty reliably turn 4, turn 5, a Possessed Portal after applying some pretty hefty early game stacks.
Yeah, and you mentioned it just there, but this is, Possessed Portal is not the only way that you slow down your opponents to crawl in this deck. We've got basically all of the good rule of law. We got all the rule of law effects. We got, I think, except Arcane Laboratory, I think that's the only one. Oh no,
Is-
we're also though Aethers weren't canonist. But yeah, but a bunch of rule effects. All
Either
the
Sworn
I
Canonist you
don't
can't
run-
run because
Yeah,
it's
I
because
an
it's
don't
an
actually really
artifact.
run any War of Law effects besides Arcana of Emeria. I run all of the No Rod effects.
yeah,
Of
you're
which, as we discovered, there are several.
Yeah, I decided that if I can't play artifacts in my deck because of deck constriction, then nobody gets to play theirs. So I have Collector Roof, I've got Karn, I've got the Stony Silence, and then Manglehorn, which is like kind of Null Rod. It's on the ritual turns that you use like Dockside and stuff. It's effectively Null Rod. So
It
that's
does a good job. It does a good
yeah.
job.
Anglehorn is
Um,
such a sexy card. That's another Blood Pod card. It just looks like Blood Pod, but like doing something really fun.
It's very similar. In the actual first iteration of this deck was Silas Wren and Tana.
Oh, don't tell Amy Jo Burton. Oh man,
Amy is 100% right. Tana was worthless. If I ever
Amy,
had,
calling you out now. If you're watching this, leave a comment.
if I ever had to cast Tana, I was in a bad spot. And also on top of that, the white early game stacks was kind of crucial to
Yeah.
set up so that because Turbo Nozzlists are winning turn 1, turn 2, turn 3 at the latest. And my deck obviously needs to cast both its commanders and then polymorph them. So I was winning turn 4 and turn 5 to set up that lock. So I needed a way to survive that.
That makes sense. So, what are some of the strengths to? I guess let's just say Possessed Portal, and then what are some strengths of the deck as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the biggest strength of Possessed Portal is how absolutely backbreaking it is. Like I said before, you need answers in hand. You don't get. It's much like Hull Breacher, where people complain that like when you cast a Hull Breacher, it's impossible to dig for your answers, because you can't draw to them. And Hull Breacher does not Hull Breacher, but Possessed Portal does the exact same thing, in which you need artifact removal, a tutor, or ad nauseum in hand. Otherwise, you're just kind of screwed.
And then strengths of like the deck as a whole. I would assume that one of them is people not expecting and no artifacts.
Yeah, so the strengths of the deck as like an entirety is that one, it's 4 colors, and what are my 4 favorite colors? No red here. But
Yeah,
anyways,
wow, thanks.
But yeah, it's 4 colors. You get access to a lot of good cards. White supplements your early game. Blue is your counterspell package and your card draw. Green gives you dorks, which are crucially important. You need dorks if you can't play artifacts.
Yeah.
And then black gives you your tutor package. But then on top of that, the combo is incredibly concise. Like I mentioned, it's your commanders and 2 cards. So it's as easy as assembling Isorev in most situations.
Yeah, that's a big deal. A lot of that it's not too convoluted. It's one of those win conditions that it's big, it's flashy, it's a big bomb move.
But
when
it's
you boil,
tight.
but when you boil it down, it's still really tight. It's easy to execute. It's relatively low mana, and even so, you're in a green deck. You got lots of ramp, you got lots of dorks. So it's fine that it's a little pricier than the most standard win conditions, and then you got a bunch of stacks to slow everyone else down.
Yeah,
Which makes me happy.
2 cards. 6 mana, 2 cards is really
that's
not
not
hard to do.
bad.
You can assemble all this early game stacks effects.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, so besides Possessed Portal, because I think that that's pretty obvious that that's a fairly unique card choice. What are some of the other more unique niche cards that you've included in here, and maybe even how is it playing without artifacts?
So to start on the unique cards, I think Possessed Portal, Shape Anew, and Tender Shoot are just cards you don't typically see. Specifically Shape Anew, which is like, I think the design space of polymorph style decks in CDH is really appreciated. I don't think
I
it's
agree.
explored nearly enough.
I mean, as
And
someone
then
who
after that,
absolutely
the shape-
hates Polytyrant Urza, I would have to disagree. But after
Yeah, no,
seeing this, I may be changing my mind again.
Shape Anew is wonderful because you get any artifact in the game. I've messed with it with like Lavinia Omen Pool locks and things like that.
Ooh.
Because you can do anything, right? Like if you pick an artifact you want, and you then choose any commander that is an artifact or makes an artifact. So like Malcolm makes treasure tokens. You can run that in the command zone. Armix is removal and is an artifact. And so yeah, Shape Anew being an artifact polymorph, I think is the most unique card in the deck. Tender Shoot and Possessed being the next two, and Tender Shoot I think being the best of its kind is really nice.
Yeah, Tender Shoot is one of those cards that it's just a house all in itself. I remember playing. I remember when it was around in Standard, and then also just like having seen it in casual games many times. It's an absolute house, and it's really cool to see it here. You know, it's really cool. You know, it makes its way into some like Staxy decks here and there occasionally.
Yeah,
It's really cool to see it be exploited in a way that isn't just beat stick in a can.
I'm gonna be real with you. My experience with it in Standard was people playing it, ascending instantly, and then me shocking it on their end step.
True.
Because I was playing Phoenix at that time. Like, I was playing, like, caning Phoenix, and that was when I was, like, caning Arena hard, and I was playing in, like, every event that I could, and, yeah, people would... And so, I had when I finally saw it in a casual game, I was like, oh, it's that dumb creature that I kept killing before it did anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got killed by it, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And then I saw it in a blood pod list, and I was like, oh. So adding two upkeep steps to Tender Shoot Dryad is really good.
Yeah. And I think the reason, because you can also choose other cards like Ophiomancer breaks the lock as well for 3 mana, but you can't Neoform into that very well. Or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's way harder to get that. Like you can Natural Order, Neoform, Green Sun. I don't know if I actually run Green Sun or not because I think it was too expensive.
No, but Natural Order is actually
Evolution.
like decently spicy.
Yeah, Natural Order just turns any of your dorks into Tender Shoot, which is really cool because you run a lot of dorks.
Oh yeah. So what would you say is some of the weaknesses of the deck? What would you say is, like, if you were to kind of tell someone how to pick this deck apart, what weak spots to aim for? What would you tell them? Assuming you probably wouldn't want to actually tell someone.
There's I think 3 major weaknesses. The one that I hate the most because I fucking hate this card is Ad Nauseam. It just gets out of the lock. If you possess Portal and somebody is able to somehow keep enough resources to Ad Nauseam on their turn or whatever, they're just not gonna give a crap. You know what I mean? Ad Nauseam. Amy Jo Burton, when she was on, she mentioned it that the deck that possess Portal doesn't stop Ad Nauseam. It puts it to hand. It doesn't draw it.
Same with Necro.
Yeah, when we run Necro, I debated running Ad Nauseam here, but our Ad Nauseam hits are really bad.
Oh, Jesus Christ, that would hurt, though.
Yeah, that's kind of the reason is you don't want Possessed Portal in hand, and also your dorks don't tap for mana like the turn they come out. But yeah, Necro does it Ad Nauseam, and Ad Nauseam being like the best deck in the format right now. Obviously, that's why so much of the deck is tuned to stopping it. You have so many artifact hates and spells like that. But then the second biggest weakness is you need your commanders out. It is still 4 cards technically at cast, which means that you can't run like your rule of law effects very well. Like that's one of the things you mentioned, because you are often going commander, tutor for one of your spells, commander, tutor for one of your spells, and you can't do that with rule of law out.
Rule of law is usually how you'd attack like an Ad Naus deck.
Yeah, exactly. And in this case, example, you often want to times tutor for your tutors, you know what I mean? Like tutor for your Shape Anew, tutor for your Neoform.
Definitely.
With the rule of law, that becomes tutor, that's 2 turns. Commander, that's 4 turns. then your actual lock. So a 6-turn cycle,
Uh,
which somebody's gonna break out in that time. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
And the last weakness of the deck is you just can't run artifacts. You don't get fast mana. You don't
What?
Get
You can't run
you don't get
artifacts.
Dual Lotus, which would be so nice for having 2 commanders that need to
oh
come.
my goodness, yeah.
Like, this is the deck that wants Dual Lotus and just can't run it. So that's
Yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah.
you do get to run Possessed Portal.
That's true. I think that's a big enough upside. So I believe
a
Josh.
lot of people don't. Too many people don't respect it when it's. I mean, obviously.
Damn right.
So I believe
No.
Josh. Before the last, there was another question, second question you would ask. What was that question again?
Oh God, Sean, I don't remember.
No, well, after the unique cards, what was the?
Oh, I asked if you've noticed like drops in play percentage from not playing artifacts. Like, how significant has not playing artifacts been?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I forgot to answer that. Not terrible. Like, obviously, it'd be nice to have some fast mana and stuff, but like I said, I play Nath as my primary deck, and Nath's very similar in that most of our ramp is dorks, dorks and like dorks and like Utopia Sprawl effects, because Nath also runs a lot of those artifact hate spells. So you do lose the the Mana Crypt, the Jeweled Lotus, which would be very nice, but as long as you can get like a turn 1, turn 2 aggressive stacks piece like a Collector Roof, a Root Maze, a Deafening Silence, you're gonna be okay.
Yeah. That's my experience in decks like in like my Sisei stacks list as well. Is I get to run a few like the fast mana stuff. Like I think I run a Chrome Mox, Mox Diamond, Soul Ring, and Mana Crypt for like fast mana. But yeah, I'm not running really much beyond that. And it's like, yeah, those are nice to have, but if I just go turn 1 play a Dork, turn 2 play a Stack Space, or even like turn 1 play a Root Maze or a Deafening Silence, then that can be just good enough. You stop your opponents from getting out ahead. Is oftentimes in a deck like this or a deck like that just as good as being explosive with your mana rocks yourself, though that is nice to have.
Yeah, and like there will be games where you don't find the tutors you need, so you just stacks out the board, you drop your Sidar Kondo, which is another reason you play him over Timna, and then you just swing completely unblocked with basically every creature in the deck.
Yeah, that's amusing. That's
yeah, so you get cards like Timna in the deck to start drawing into what you actually need. But yeah, that's sometimes you have to stack it out and just go to beats.
Yeah, I mean, beats are a win condition. Highly underrated.
I mean, hey, again, as a Urza player, as a dedicated Urza player, beats happen, especially in a stacks deck. Not so much in Duretti though. He's
I like that you're a dedicated Urza player now. You have become the thing you swore to destroy.
No, I don't think it's that. It's just that. So we were talking before the show. I'm currently last night was my first game in a month-long Commander League, and I decided to take an Urza deck, and it wasn't because like I particularly, I don't know. I feel very comfortable playing a monocolored stacks deck. I don't know what that says about me as a CDH player, but
listen, if you have a niche, you got a niche. You play monocolor stacks. I play discard. Everybody's got their own thing.
I play Brazella.
I was gonna say, Sean, I don't know what the hell you're doing, but dude, when you brought that deck to me, when you brought that list to me and you were like, we should do this, I was like, I knew I found the right person.
It was one of the first.
Or I knew that Braden had pushed us, like, found the right people.
Yeah.
Oh. So
yeah, it was one of the first decks that I showed him. I was like, "Here, look at this thing. I made this myself with."
I made this in my garage with duct tape, and I'm like,
yeah,
"Oh my
like,
god, it's so beautiful."
I made this with Evaldi and some other people one night. I've been tweaking it ever since, and he's like, "Oh, it's so beautiful. I've never seen anything so beautiful." I'm just like, "Ah, cool, thanks."
But telling me your win
I love stacks so much is you can do those ridiculously janky things that
Oh, yes.
hard locks that are slow, but as long as you can drop some early stacks, you're good. Oh, I love it so much.
You can do, and I've said this on Twitter, and I think Mab on Twitter as well said this, but you can do anything you want as long as you stacks hard enough.
Damn,
anything you want to do. Want to win with beats? Do it. Want to win with, I don't know, brushwogs? Insert for certain person somewhere out there.
If you're trying to win with brushwogs, don't. Not in CEDH.
Hey, you can do it. You can do it.
All right. With the brushwag tangent, I feel like that is a sign that we need to start wrapping things up here. Toggle, where can people find you on the interwebs?
Let's see. So on Twitter, Toglerog. On Discord, Toglerog. And on Moxfield, Toglerog.
Oh my god, that's so easy. Y'all should go follow him and find him everywhere now.
Yeah, you should.
I do really spicy decks, or really budget decks. I'm also the head mod and creator of the Budget Brews server. So it's either budget commander or full-blown, super expensive stacked decks.
Or spicy budget brews. It can be both.
Sean, where can people find you?
You can find me at DeathSingerLee on Twitter. Post about politics, Magic the Gathering, random stuff going on in my life. You can follow me there. You can follow the cast over at SBScast, where we'll make sure to update every week. Every week we'll post updates about the podcast, and if there are any interruptions, you can know if any stuff happens. We had a couple weeks that were off because of sickness and school stuff, but now we're back to weekly, so that's great. Josh, where can people find you?
You can find me at TwoInABlue on Twitter, making the best CEDH joke ever that I just checked and only has 2 likes on it.
Hold on, what is this?
Yeah, I don't remember what's the joke. Did I like it?
Getting ready to write my Duretti primer, and I had to come up with an official sounding name. So the primer announcement on the Strange Brews podcast, the primer for Duretti Farm will be up soon.
All right.
Because nobody knows, that word has lost all fucking meaning. So sure, whatever.
Fucking started, and then everybody was like, "This is Ukima Farm," and I'm like, "No, it's not. It's Ukima." What are you talking about?
That is wonderful. That is one of the most meta names for the meta game names I've ever.
I was gonna say it started as a joke, but I may literally just keep it.
Just do it.
I've listened to a lot of Into the North in preparation for the first game of the league, and they kept mentioning that, and I was like, you know what, that is a good point. Alright, well, this has been another episode of Strange Brews. Toggle, thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a blast.
And we will see you all next week with another episode.
Take care.
Take care.